Welcome to an extra special episode of Let's Get Trashed, ladies and gentlemen. This is going to be my first and hopefully only solo endeavor. There's a few reasons I'm doing this solo ep. Most prevalently upon my mind is that I've been very busy, haven't had time to schedule anything with my compatriots, Jimmy D or Clarence Riley IV. You will see them in future episodes, but I didn't have any time to put stuff together. I've been pretty busy. Next couple things is I want to talk about a few movies that those guys haven't seen, including one that was until yesterday or the day before was impossible for them to have seen. So we're going to get into that in just a little bit. A couple things. I do want to say thanks to everybody who's been watching and checking the show out. It is really cool, and it does mean a lot to me. And it's fun to see all the comments, especially, of course, on my viral tour de force of an episode about the Netflix film RRR, or rather, the Tollywood film RRR, which can be found on Netflix. Let's talk about that a little bit. We'll do a little bit of a wrap-up on that, because I learned a lot after that. I have no idea why that went viral. My suspicion is that there's just enough fervor around this movie that people were constantly seeking out new content about it, and me and Jimmy talking about it seemed to be, interesting, and I think it was, I think there was a lot more hits than there were actual minutes watched, so, but nevertheless, I appreciate it, and what I really appreciate is all the cool comments I got, and all the interesting information I learned. Being that, as a guy who does no research, as is plainly obvious from watching my show, I had no idea who either of these people were, but apparently our two main characters are both folk heroes, folk characters from Indian history, Indian lore, and this movie RRR, presents to us an alternate reality. What would the world look like if those two gentlemen had met and worked together, conspired with each other, blah, 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 how would that happen? Anyway, very, very interesting stuff. Thank you to my most valuable comment by Smelly Person 81. No, I'm sorry, Smiley Person 81. I'm sorry, I'm dumb. Thanks to Smiley Person 81 for putting in the timestamp of when the actual film review starts. Apparently, Jimmy D and I wasted 18 minutes and 19 seconds being dumb. So, thanks to him for helping, pushing everybody expeditiously towards the actual content of that review. And I love all the recommendations. I am going to start working my way through all these Indian films that have been recommended to me. It's pretty cool. I also learned an interesting tidbit is that I said something. I provided misinformation in that review. I said that the movie RRR was a Bollywood film because I mistakenly thought that Bollywood was the catch-all term for movies from India. The same way that, honestly, I use the word Hollywood to describe any movie from America, even if it's like not a Hollywood, even if it's an independent thing, like the independent film I'm going to be discussing in a minute, the meat of this episode. I tend to say, if it's an American film, whatever. Hollywood is just in my mind, Hollywood is it's a descriptor. It's a label for kind of anything that comes out of America. You could call it Hollywood. You could call it Babylon if you're if you're so inclined. But either way, I'm just like, yeah, whatever, Hollywood. Even if it was filmed entirely in New York and edited in New York and had nothing to do with, there's still a studio involved, whatever. It's just Hollywood is too inextricable from our film industry for me to call it anything else. Apparently that's not the case in India. They actually, they borrow Hollywood, they borrow that term, and they just kind of change some of the prefixes, but there's Tollywood, which is actually where RRR comes from. Tollywood with a T, that's the Telugu film industry. As a country that speaks multiple languages, and very commonly speaks multiple languages, their various languages have their own film centers, so it appears. So Tollywood is where the Telugu films come from, like RRR, and Bollywood, I guess, is more indicative of Hindi films and maybe other languages. I'm not really sure, but that was made very clear to me in the comments, and I want to let you know that I saw that, and I thought that was interesting. I didn't know, I thought it was just like, I thought it was a joke. I thought it was like a play on words. Like, I didn't know what I didn't know why they chose, in my mind, I didn't know, I was like, why would they choose B for their thing? But it'd be like if Japan had, Jollywood to make their films, or, China had Chollywood. Like, I don't know. I just figured they were like, everything is just picking a letter. They're just playing off that term of the biggest film industry in the world. And definitely don't come at me about that, because we all know it's Hollywood. It's like, it's so big. Obviously French every country has their own thing, but just in sense of pure like capitalistic dissemination and reach, you can't avoid Hollywood films. And I'm not saying that as a good thing, but you can't step to me being like, our film industry is just as, I know the product is just as good, but it doesn't spread like the virus of American cinema does. So, and you all know that. Anyway, very cool. Lots of different comments about this. Cyber Avatar. Basics about Indian cinema. Indian cinema is on since 1910s. There are 20 plus different film industries based on different languages, regions, that produce an average of 1,800 films per year, in parentheses, most in the world, of almost every type of genre. Not all musicals over the top. It's not all Bollywood. The term Bollywood was given by a foreign BBC journalist in the 1960s. So that's not even America's fault. That's England's fault, as is most of the world's problems. So, right, 1,800 films per year, most in the world. I get it. I understand that. And that's interesting. But your cinemas are still making deals with Disney to, have our shit that sucks. So again, it's not about volume. It's certainly not about quality. It's about like just the pervasiveness of American film business, not even the actual artistic product. A bunch of really cool recommendations. I am going to check out some of this stuff. Ship of Theseus, another Indian movie. It's Oscar-level movie, and after watching this, you would thank me for suggesting this. And he's asking me a question. This is Eli Glassner. Would you say this movie will be in your top 3 movies you have ever watched? And he's asking about RRR. I have not seen Ship of Theseus yet, but that sounds like a good one to watch. Would I say RRR was in my top 3 movies I've ever watched? No. But I will say it's in my top... I can say it's probably like my most memorable, definitely one of my most memorable films I've ever watched. And most, like, unexpected in a way. Like, I'll never forget the experience of, like, sitting down there and not knowing what was going on and just being kind of hit in the face with this, wild over-the-top story and how cool it was. And then, I had friends and family that have watched this show and reached out to me saying they watched the movie and really liked it and stuff like that. So that was a really cool kind of moment. Sorry, hold on. It was a cool moment. I did appreciate that. That's definitely something memorable. I did like it as far as, like, just fun action movies. It could be top 3, but no, not top 3 films overall. That's not for me, but it's definitely top 3 memorable films I've ever seen. All right. So I'm going to try to keep this one. I'm definitely going to keep this one short because I have no one to talk to, and I'm just kind of rambling on my own. But we are going to get to a couple cool things. One, as you know, I don't typically talk about comic book stuff on here, with the exception of an In the Can episode about Blade. I don't really care about comic book movies anymore. I'm done watching them. I am pretty fascinated with what's going on with the Flash movie. The Flash, Warner Brothers, The Flash, starring Ezra Miller. And I did watch, like, the Justice League with him in it, when his introduction as the Flash. And now he's getting his own spin-off film. And boy, oh boy, this kid, Ezra Miller, is doing everything in his power to destroy this film. This film must be incredible for Warner Brothers to not have pulled the plug on it yet, considering the amount of trouble this kid is in on a daily basis. From, like, sexual assault and, underage women accusations, and he got into a bar fight in Hawaii a few months ago. March 27th, 2022. He became agitated while patrons were singing a karaoke rendition of Shallow from A Star Is Born. He just starts yelling obscenities, and he steals a microphone, and then he attacked a guy who was playing darts, and he went nuts, and he gets thrown in jail. And this hostel he's living at, some other people at the hostel put together his bail money, $500, pretty reasonable, for a drunken disorderly, I guess. And then 2 days later, those same people are filing a restraining order against Miller. He threatened the couple, the man and wife. He threatened the couple, saying, "I will bury you and your slut wife." He stole the wife's passport and the husband's wallet with the social security card, credit cards, all kinds of stuff. You know what's in a wallet, folks. It's unclear whether the items were returned. He's just been on a tear. He was taken into custody again in Hawaii, throwing a chair which hit a woman at a private party, leaving her a half-inch cut on her head. He stole like a rapper and a producer. He stole, like, some of their music that they were working on. I guess he knew them, and he posted it on social media. He just, like, stole their music and just posted it before it was unreleased. He posts unreleased music, which, come on. I'm reading a vulture.com article, and they're really trying. I mean, it's a timeline thing, so I guess they can't help it, but I would have just left that one off. April 19th, he hits a woman in the head with a chair. May 16th, he makes a video with Oliver Ignatius's music behind it. 18-year-old activist Gibson Iron Eyes accuses Miller the parents accuse Miller of grooming their child. I don't really know what that means, but specifically, but grooming is a popular accusation nowadays. Request for an order. Miller can't be around the kid or the young person or within 100 yards of the residence. something. What else? Oh, he's on the run with that person with the Gibson iron eyes. He's on the run. Him and Ezra Miller and Gibson. Yeah, it's wild. So now he's like kidnapped somebody. Anyway, they keep putting out new trailers. Warner Brothers is like standing behind this film. They can't wait to. They're gonna release this movie. August 8th. This is from yesterday. Vermont State Police confirms that Miller has been charged with the offense of felony burglary into an unoccupied dwelling in Stamford, Vermont. So he's out of Hawaii. He left Hawaii. He's back in Vermont. He stole several bottles of alcohol, and he's scheduled to appear in court on September 26th. Yeah, wild. So anyway, it's going crazy. He's accused of housing children in unsafe conditions. I don't know what's going on, but if it comes out, I might have to see what this movie could possibly be if they're sticking by their star like this. I've never seen this kind of support from a film studio to a filmmaker. Which takes us to the topic du jour, which is the Joe List Louis C.K. movie 4th of July. A film I was particularly excited to see because I love both of these performers as stand-up comics, and I really love Joe List. Shout out Joe as a great stand-up, seemingly very kind of thoughtful guy. He has a film podcast as well that I love called Joe and Renan Talk Movies. It's Joe List and Renan Hirschberg, and it's just very much a style I wanted to emulate, which is just one or two people kind of talking about movies free form. It's not, it's not edited. It's not a ton of production to it. And I was like, well, if they can do it, then that justifies me not doing any production or editing. This movie was only very limited run, only playing in AMC theaters, few AMC theaters across the country, obviously only in big cities that would have this kind of independent film. And I was able to catch a screening of it here in Austin. I was planning to drive to San Antonio to see it because that was at the time, San Antonio was announced first, and I thought that was going to be the most nearby possibility for me to watch it, but it turns out they added an Austin one a week later, so I was able to catch that one instead. Regarding the studios not backing their artist, you may or may not remember, 2018, when Louis C.K.'s film, I Love You, Daddy, was supposed to come out. I think it had already done the festival run and was like widely beloved. And his situation, his allegations, that New York Times article or Wall Street Journal, I think it was New York Times article that came out regarding the allegations and accusations against him, came out a week before his film was supposed to come out. Inconvenient or convenient timing, depending on who you talk to or who you're thinking about. And then that film was pulled from release. And CK, I believe, spent a lot of money immediately to purchase the rights rather than let it languish. He acted quickly and spent a huge amount of money to purchase like the distribution rights for that film so he can own it. I don't know when he's going to put it out or if. I hope he does because I'd like to see it. But he might not. Even though I believe he does own the rights to it, he might forego. He might just not put it out at all because, for example, Chloe Grace Moritz who was his co-star in that film, I think she pretty roundly condemned him. Upon reading this article, I think she took a pretty hard stance against it, and so I think my estimation is that he's not going to put it out. Simple matter of like, if he doesn't have the backing of the cast to release it, I don't know if he would want to release it in spite of them. That also might be a groundless suspicion of mine, but seems reasonable to me, and I am not going to do any further research than that. Let's talk about 4th of July, written by Joe List and Louis C.K. I was very fortunate to see it. Packed theater. I mean, sold out theater. I think it was selling out showings all across the country. You know, the few showings that there were. And really, really fun movie. Honestly, my favorite genre of movie, which is a comedy with like a heartfelt comedy is my favorite thing. Obviously, I love screwball comedy, or just, Caddyshack, Airplane, Step Brothers. I love stupid, wacky comedy. But what I really, really love more than anything else is like comedy that has some sort of emotional kind of depth to it. Which you can't talk about that kind of comedy without mentioning the great Woody Allen and his entire catalog. And then, all the people that come after him, Albert Brooks, or, Albert Brooks movies are some of my favorite in the world. James L. Brooks collaboration with Albert Brooks. Defending Your Life and Broadcast News are two of the funniest comedies ever. Yeah. So those kinds of that's honestly my favorite type of comedy. I'm on record as saying I think one of my favorite movies of all time is Arthur, 1981, Dudley Moore. Hilarious comedy with an actual thing. I mean, 10 is another Dudley Moore movie that's hilariously funny and really has a not even a message. I don't care about a message or saying something like that necessarily. But it just has something else to it. It has a depth to it that's just entertaining, and I love that more than I'll love a again, wacky comedy. The Will Ferrell remake of Land of the Lost. Love that movie. Seen it a million times, but it's not a MacGruber, you know what I mean? These are some of the funniest movies ever made that I'm referencing, but they're not in my favorite category the way that these more heartfelt ones are. And 4th of July fits into that category. 4th of July is really, really well done. It's really great. It's so fun and funny, and it's well written, and it's charming. Let's talk a couple things. We'll give a brief plot synopsis. Joe List plays Jeff, a New York City musician who is recovering alcoholic, in therapy, dealing with a lot of problems, alcoholism and some other kind of stuff, anxiety. He obviously has all that kind of stuff, and he is encouraged by his therapist, played by Louis C.K., to, confront his family. He's encouraged also by his wife, played by his real life wife, Sarah Tollemache, to confront his family and take that next step to get over that kind of thing. And so the chance he has to do that is at the family's annual retreat to the lake house in Maine. Grandpa has a lake house in in the woods up in Maine. That's like their ritual, and he's leaving his wife behind. He's going by himself because he's taken this opportunity to say the things he was always too afraid to say. Say the things he thinks needs to be, to get all the stuff off of his chest and get some answers and stuff like that. And then, you get there and it's him being uncomfortable around his family because they're, he's not comfortable. They're drinking constantly and he's on edge. He's on guard. And it's great. Great cast of performers, mostly comedians. Obviously, I mentioned Louis C.K., Joe List, and Sarah Tollemache. I have no idea, but very, very funny stand-up comic. Robert Kelly, a fantastic, great comedian. Nick DiPaolo is the funniest character in the film. Comedian Nick DiPaolo plays Jeff's uncle Kevin, hysterically. Lynn Coplitz, great comedian. She's in the film as well. So it's just, it's a who's who of funny comics performing. I think I don't know. There's a lot of people in it, and they're all very good, even the small parts. So it's very fun, and it's the kind of thing I like. So this movie is actually just recently for sale on Woody Allen's website. That would be weird. On Louis C.K.'s website. So it's worth purchasing it. I mean, it's $15, but I'm gonna pick up a copy so I can watch it again and just keep it. I'm actually gonna burn it to DVD. I figured out you can do that. So now I'll just burn it to DVD so I have my own DVD copy. So I can watch it without having to watch it from my phone and screencast it, all that kind of stuff. Let's see. What else can I think? It is very, it is shot very interestingly. I do appreciate the way it looks. It does do some weird color changes. I don't know if I am going to blame this theater. Oh, it wasn't an AMC theater. It was a Regal theater, which is even worse. I hate Regal theaters. And that's why, I don't know, parts of it kind of looked blurry on the edge. I don't know if it was an intentional thing they were doing with focus in 4th of July to some stuff. I mean, obviously there was a few scenes that were intentionally, color saturated and focused, and that kind of signifies Jeff is having some sort of panic attack, or he's having something. Those are just brief moments that give us kind of a jolt and lets us experience, in a sense, what Jeff is experiencing at that time, as he's blocking up and getting tight and getting anxious. But I don't know, there might have been something wrong with my projector. There's a few focus things I made it a little tough to watch. Next thing I want to talk about this film is something, a topic that's come up on this show, on my show a few times, is separating the artist from the art. And again, I've explained how Rotten Tomatoes works before, but if you're unfamiliar, there's the critic review section and the audience score. The audience score is exactly what you think it is. People rate it. It's a percentage of how all the people that go to Rotten Tomatoes and insert their rating, and that's what you get. Audience score is 90%. Very highly rated. I mean, 90's a great score. That's an A. A minus if you care. The critic score, 30%. And right away, as I'm sure you can all see that disparity. How does most of the audience like it and most critics don't like it? Well, there's a few ways that happens. One is the nature of Rotten Tomatoes' rating system, wherein they take all the critics, and if a critic gives it a favorable score, that is in the plus column. But that's the thing, it's like, if 10 critics all give a movie, 51% or whatever, then that's 100% on the tomato score. You know what I mean? If they're all inching into the good category, that's how you get 100%. So it's not an average. It's not a aggregate in the same sense that like the audience score is. And then what that leads to, and I believe this is intentional because I think these people are. I think these people are duplicitous, and by these people I the media and art art critics and stuff like that. That leads to a lot of scenarios where we have the critics, the critical establishment, the intellectual class. They get to rate something really low, because they think they know better and fly in the face of the audience score. You see that a lot with stand-up comedy specials. I remember, I think it's balanced out a little bit by now, but one of the recent Dave Chappelle specials had 100% audience score and a 0% critic score. And if that doesn't tell you right there all you need to know, of like the critics are responding to this in a political way, and audiences are just responding to it like audiences. And they're just taking it for what it is, and then the critics feel like they have to, they can't be, critics are so infrequently honest, and they don't want to be honest. So that's why they, they use their critical time to promote, whatever their belief or agenda is, and they don't really engage with the subject matter, but they'll rather take it out. So the reason this has such a low score, if you go and read any of these reviews, most of it has to do with the personal conduct of the director, Louis C.K. And then there's, of course, a lot of jabs thrown in. One guy calls it a watered-down Woody Allen facsimile, which that's kind of a weird criticism. This movie's not as good as, you're not as good as Woody Allen. I don't know who wouldn't take that. I don't who is, first of all, and second of all, unfair criticism probably by Barry Hertz, because if I click on his profile and find his review of the most recent Woody Allen movie, I have a feeling he's not going to be too kind about it either. For the same personal conduct reasons that shouldn't, in my mind, in my correct opinion, obviously, go fuck yourself if you don't agree with me, that shouldn't come into your evaluation of a work of art. So, it's a lot of the stuff is actually pretty, it's cheaply panned, or it's Some of the stuff is not even that bad, but of course they give it a don't watch. They give it the negative review. They give it the don't go see this because and then they go on to mostly be criticizing the, again, personal conduct of the director. Matt Zoller Seitz, whatever, I don't know how you say his name. Matt Zoller Seitz, who I actually have read a lot of his work because he wrote a book on The Sopranos called The Sopranos Sessions with somebody else. He wrote, listen to this inane description. The sum total of 4th of July has the same effect on the viewer as being trapped at a party with a nice but dull person who decides to tell you their entire life story without even asking your name. His chief complaint, whatever. If you want to say the movie's dull or boring, it's your prerogative. It's a heartfelt comedy. It's hardly RRR. You're not going to see jazz pianist Jeff fight a lion in Maine. So, it's a comedy about dealing with family, which is a universal experience. If you're not relating to that, then I can't help you, kid. But decide to tell you their entire life story without even asking your name. You just bought a ticket. You're not. How is the movie supposed to engage with you? How do you make this about you when you're not? You're supposed to be absorbing something. So anyway, again, you read the rest of the review. They can't keep Louis' name out of their mouth. But anyway, I recommend this film highly. If you're, again, and I've already given my criteria up front, is that I love this kind of thing. And I wish we would see more of this. I can't think of the last comedy that came out in theaters. I certainly haven't seen one lately. I don't think I've reviewed a comedy lately. I'd have to go through the Let's Get Trashed catalog, but we haven't reviewed a comedy at all. At least not a recent one. I guess Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent was the last comedy, and even that was more of an action movie. Or it was, an action comedy, again, trying to be like, explosions in the background and having a fun quip. Kind of, which is the kind of stuff I hate. Everything Everywhere All at Once, again, action comedy. So, a lot of that kind of stuff. There's not a lot of, like, genuine comedies coming out. I don't know. I can't remember when the last Will Ferrell movie was. But again, that's not even what anybody's looking for, anyways. As far, certainly not me. I'm looking for something with a little more depth to it. So, anyway, I'm gonna wrap it up. I'm gonna keep this one nice and short. I got to talk about a few different things. Wrap up. Read some of the comments from my RR episode. Let you know about Ezra Miller and the wild ride he's on, and we'll see if Warner Brothers cancels that movie. He might be in enough like untoward or unsavory legal trouble to where they can't help but cancel it. I hope they just let it roll. I hope it just comes out. I hope it kills a guy. Anyway, but the main thesis of this episode is go watch 4th of July, which can be found now on Louis C.K.'s website. So purchase it. You can download it, or you can stream it directly from his website for 5 years. Yeah, I don't know what the easiest way to do is. I got to figure out how I'm going to probably burn it to a DVD so I can watch it in my living room. Because with the smart TV that I have, I don't know how I could buy something on a website and watch it if that website isn't Apple's app or Amazon's app or whatever. So if anybody knows how to do that, feel free to leave a comment. In the meantime, do me a favor, like, subscribe, I guess leave a comment again, and follow me on Twitter at Nick Tazo. Follow me on Instagram at Nick Tazo Drums. And go watch 4th of July. Spelled out. It's not 4th. It's the word 4th of July. It's written by and starring Joe List, co-written by Louis C.K. Very, very funny movie about, being almost a black sheep or being an odd duck at a family and trying to come up with that kind of stuff. But anyway, and deep down, as it always does, family triumphs. But anyway, really, really good movie, really fun. I hope they do more of it. I hope it's successful enough for them to justify doing more. I love Joe List. Go watch his stand-up also. It's great. He's got a bunch of it on YouTube. He just put out on YouTube. Great hours. I Hate Myself is one of his hours. The last one was called This Year's Material. Hysterical. So check that out. Anyway, thanks everybody. Let's get trash.